good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in once again for another in our series, A Story to Tell. Today we have with us Mr. Cranston Forbes, and he'll be sharing some of his experiences with us. Before you before you go any further and before we begin, just to remind you all to subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so, and you can also become a part of our WhatsApp group or WhatsApp network where we send out important information that will be beneficial to you. The number will be posted in the description below. All right, so we have Cranston here. How are you doing, Cranston?
Hey, Lestine. Not bad at all. No, God is good. I guess in the crisis, I tend to probably even put on some more weight that I need to have. So give God
Yes,
thanks.
yes, it seems like quite a number of persons have been putting on weight since this crisis. Is it because we are staying at home more?
Staying at home, oh, yes.
Yes,
Everything we do at home.
yes. Well, we are delighted
So
to have you with us. So let us begin. Just tell us a little bit about your early beginnings back in Kingston, where you were born, your family settings and such.
well, to be honest, I most of my life I was born in Kingston, Central Kingston. Um, I always tell people I was born in front of the Parliament building.
Yes,
So I've been there where I grew up living in the building in front of Parliament. So
it's on
that's
Duke
where
Street.
I on Duke Street.
Hmm.
So I had the opportunity to see every Parliament session, even just looking through my window.
Yes.
Because as a little boy, we weren't. My mother, before she died, we weren't allowed to really go outside. We were, what would I say now, protected from the elements.
Yes.
So we grew up there, my brother, my sisters, and from then she was like a nurse. There was a nursing facility. I think it's a Golden Age home at Ioban Street. She was there. I think it was actually run by Grace Kennedy, if my
Hmm.
memory serves me correct. And so I grew up in church. So from home, we would go to Warman Street Pentecostal Tabernacle, and
It's close by.
that was close by. Yes.
Hmm.
So most of the people in the community at that time, we tend to go to that to Warman Street. So we all went. As a matter of fact, probably I would say probably our family at the time was the only Christian within that complex, because it
Hmm.
was a big um, complex with many
Yes.
apartments or many homes
We
in
call
it.
it subdivided dwelling.
Some subdivided dwelling. Indeed,
Yes.
indeed, indeed.
So about your siblings now, you had any brothers and sisters living with you at the time?
We all of us were living. The only person I think who was living with us was my eldest brother, who we knew later on in life. That was my
Hmm.
eldest brother from my mother's side. So I had my sisters, Evelyn Clark, Diane Edwards. Now she was Diane Forbes then, Clyde Forbes, Sheridan Forbes, myself. So originally we had when I was growing up, I only thought I had 5 siblings. Then later on, before my mother died, she introduced us to her son, who was living in Montego Bay at the time. So, then when I grew up, I found out that I didn't even knew my father, who after my mother died, who had all of us, I didn't know that my sister wasn't his real biological daughter, because that was Evelyn, because we treated all of us equally, and we
Hmm.
didn't even know. So that's to show you the tenacity of the man. So we grew up together. After a while, Clive left. He went to Trinidad to study, and
Hmm.
then he was on the pastor Stuart, who was the pastor at Pentecostal Tabernacle at the time. He took Clive under his wing because, again, being involved in church, we were always in Bible quiz and all of that. Surprisingly, even though people know me now as a music person, when I was at Pentab, it was a longer time before I entered the band or being involved in music, even though
Yes.
I was involved in music outside.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what happened. Then, of course, I went to Rollington Town Primary School.
Hmm.
And then from Rollington Town Primary School, I never passed. You had to go to the traditional high school And at the time when I actually think I passed for what's a school in Western Kingston. I'm not sure of the name. And when I went to the first time, I said to my sibling, because, well, put it this way, my mother, she died when I was 3.
Okay.
So, well, not when I was 3, when I was in grade 3. So I was at Rollington Town when she died. So that was a tragic time for me. You know, the good thing is she knew she was going to die. She called us together the day before, and she spoke
She
to
was
us.
sick?
And she was ill, but we weren't sure what. I couldn't tell you. My sisters were more detailed in those things. Probably would tell you what she was sick, because remember, I was a little boy. I didn't even understand at the time. However, she did tell us, listen, the Lord wanted her. We didn't want her to go, but God knows what He was doing. She was tower of strength in, evangelism and stuff like that. Then I went to, when I graduated from the Rollington Town High School, I was sent to a school in Western Kingston, and I said, no, I don't want to. And I ended up going to Vauxhall Comprehensive at that time.
Why did you want to go to Vauxhall versus that other school?
For more than one reason. My sisters all went to Vauxhall, and Sheridan went to Vauxhall.
That's your older brother.
Clive, that's my older brother, sorry. And my eldest brother, he was the one who went straight into George's. He passed the exam before, I think, by age 10. So that was, something else. So we went. I decided I want to be where my family they were, and that's why I went to Vauxhall. Going to Vauxhall, I think, I know, actually, it's changed my life. One, it's what introduced me to music. 2, one of the things I will never forget is the kind of teachers that they had there, where the teachers were not just concerned about you coming as a student, but they were concerned about your entire being. So, for example, I was never brought up with wealth, never.
Yes.
We were poor. But one of the things I remember, Mrs. Livingston, Miss Green, Mrs. Sinclair, and I was talking to somebody, and I said, listen, when after this COVID, to come down and to just show honor to these ladies, because when they were the ones who, when we were going to school, I never had the funds.
Yes.
They would make sure that while I'm at school, I would have something to eat. And one of the things I tried to do, even when I started teaching, was to carry on that same mantle. So, and to make sure that what they had invested in me, I also invested it into somebody else. So, going there, I also started music. There was a music teacher. We're still in contact even this day, Mr. David Weatherburn. He saw the potential, and he had me starting to play first started to play the flute.
So
he knew that I was a singer.
So you getting involved in music is just regular music classes that every child had to do at the time.
At the time, and one of the good things, he was just a unique music teacher, because what he wanted was to have a band in the school. So he would teach all the instruments. And coming out from Jamaica now, I recognize that this is one of the things that allows me to do a lot more where I'm teaching. But and also understanding the system in the United States, where there's an elementary band and a middle school band. Those things is not in the music system in Jamaica. For teaching, for example. What we do is to probably find the kids with the talent, and we would create what we call, in essence, a rhythm section, which is a keyboard, drum, bass, and we get them. But at that time, we had the entire gamut of trumpet, clarinet, flutes, just a school band. And he saw that potential. I did not know, though, that long before that, somebody by the name of David Madden was taught me how to play the trumpet. So when I started playing the flute, my sisters reminded me of Mrs. Madden. She was from Grace at the time. I'm not sure if she's still there. I was trying to do some research to try to find her, because again, one of the things we have to always do is never forget.
And that's Grace Kennedy, right?
Grace Kennedy, right? Never
Okay,
to
because
forget
of the closeness of where you lived.
at the time in
Yes.
Kingston, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, but not only that, I think my mother and her were good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, when my mother was going to the house, this is what my sisters are telling, because some of the stuff I never remembered. Um, she would carry me, and he would started to teach me to play the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started learning the flute, I went straight to the trumpet because that was a natural thing since I already had started to learn it from a little
Exposure,
child.
yes. Yes.
Right. And we became so good with it. About a couple, I think about 5 of us. Then at the time, School of Music was not quote unquote made for the persons who were not of the affluent part of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And God was so good that the same Mrs. Madden, she gave us a scholarship to go to this Jamaica School of Music, and that's where I started. And I went to learn to play the trumpet. At the same time, I was learning a little keyboard. God is so good because of how I could sing. And Mr. Wedderburn had connections with Fab Five and Unit Vision at the time. We would go there to play and to sing. Then he introduced me to Curtis Pauline Watson. That's the wife of the big opera singer Curtis Watson.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me up on his wing, and I had been trying to sing classical. And I started doing classical. But then I remember one time at School of Music, he said when I was singing, but there was no key piano player. And he says, "You're not putting it the way I want it." And then he said, "No, let me see something." And he got the piano player and he started to piano. We were singing His Eyes on the Sparrow because I think we were going to do it for a performance. And when I started to sing it, he started to weep. And he says, "No, you are not a classical singer. You are a gospel singer because you sang so emotionally. It comes naturally out of you." I said, "Yes, sir," because I go to church, you know. And so that's what we did. Eventually, yes, sir.
When you choose to gravitate more towards music and going through school and everything, knowing that your mother was not in the picture, who took on that role as your mother now? Was it your
No, you see,
sisters?
we're sisters because we are a closely knitted family. So we cared about each other. So I tell you, so the good thing is I had the support of these ladies from school, from Vauxhall Secondary, Vauxhall High School. They really were a tower of strength behind me.
Yes.
So and then there was a teacher. I will never forget Mr. McLean. So, for example, Carlisle Burglar, West Burglar, who is a famous disc jock on your radio, we all came through these people. And these people all play a part in our lives.
Yes.
So they were also the support at school, and then my sisters were the support at home. I ended up doing accounts, not music. So while I was still doing music at school and still going to
School of Music.
to School of Music to learn, I decided, listen, we had to do accounts because at that time, music, especially in church, the church firm wasn't a profitable thing to go into. And I ended up getting accepted at 17 to the UTech.
Yes.
And at the same time, my teacher, who's Mr. Weatherburn, he left Vauxhall, and they could not find somebody to fill his spot. So Mrs. Sinclair, who was the principal at that time, she said to me, "Cranston, I'm going to hire you as a pre-trained music teacher. And while you're studying to develop his skills and to impact." And I end up teaching at Vauxhall from 17. So at that time, it all the way for about 10 years.
So at what age did you leave Vauxhall officially?
I left Vauxhall at 17 to go to UTech.
But what? So it's the same year that you left?
The same year that I left. It was the same year that they hired me as the music pre-trained music teacher, right? And I did that, and I worked, studied. So whilst studying accounts, going to school, and teaching at the same time, God was so good because again we had another teacher who's still a friend of mine. We still communicate, Mr. Reynolds, Michael Reynolds. He was now the music teacher, head of music at the school. This is a high school now, young little lad coming from the high school. He would also guide me because there were 3 music teachers at the time. But the other one, he used to work for Love Singers, I think it was, and he left to go to a small island. So it ended up the workload was now on just us two.
Yes.
So he would teach in the afternoon. So if I would teach in the morning shift, then we would rotate that. And through that, now I started to develop my musical skills. I had to learn to play the keyboard because remember now, singing was a vital part. They were learning the recorders, learning all these instruments. God was so good because some of the instruments I learned under the tutelage of Mr. David Weatherburn. So I went to UTech, and I did accounting. I rather than doing at the music UTech used to do a teaching degree too, but I did straight business administration because I wanted another opportunity. I love accounts because I did teach it, and I used to teach it at Pentab High, and a lot of students got one just in 1 year teaching the accounts. But music has always been my passion. When I was at Vauxhall for 10 years, the Pastor Stewart from Pentecostal Tabernacle, he called me into his office and he says, he really think that he needed to improve put the music up to another level in terms of having somebody full time. And he wanted me. I said, no, sir, you can't ask me. You had other musicians who were more competent than me at the time. You had Mark Stewart there. You had Dennis Rushton, who was also there. I just thought it was not prudent for me to be there. So he said that I should go home. No, listen, at that time I was now going to be the head of music at Vauxhall.
Mr. Reynolds is now leaving now.
No, Mr. Reynolds, it took about 1 year leave, so there was no other person. So I'm now going to be the head. I was the head of music, and then I had spent some time in prayer just to make sure. And I said, "So are you serious?" And he said, well, what happened? I think I got sick at that time, got ill, and went into the hospital, And I said, Lord, is this what you want me to do? And it's while in the hospital, even when I was sick, I would come out of the hospital to go to church to play on a Sunday morning, and then leave from church a Sunday afternoon and go back into the hospital.
Really?
Yes.
They let you out?
They did because they saw they thought it was a passion. They saw that my love for the things of God and the work of the ministry at the time, and they did let me out. But I would tell you the tragic what happens now. So after that, I started doing some online stuff. Being a music director at Pentab, I thought of getting people down. One good thing though, I always tell people it's not just you as the person in charge of music, and you have to have good team around you. And being at Pentab, we had a good team around us. We had Sister Hedley, who was vital in administration because she that's her forte, and she was good. She was a strong support. We had Paul Price, who worked in the sound department. We had a good team, and we also thought of, rather than keeping the thing, we needed to develop the young people.
Yes.
And that's one of the things we tried to do at Pentab, was to make sure that the young people, there were always room for growth for the young people. And there were a lot of young people who came through because we gave them the opportunity. That's not the norm for many churches, but I thought of that.
Christian, let me interject. How did they take the news of you leaving at Vauxhall?
To be honest, they never took the news good. They were saying, no, you can't. And they say the good thing is, I don't believe in trying to burn bridges. Yeah. So when I left Vauxhall, I went back to Vauxhall, not teaching now as a teacher, but go there as helping as an advisor. And I would work. I remember going there when they won the All Together Sing. Mr. Reynolds, I was very integral in that part. I did the arrangement, I did the music. I would go in with Mr. Reynolds and I'll teach a choir. Then would go up to TVJ and work with them. We also, to be honest, if you think about it, the Vauxhall Choir was the first choir to arrange dancehall music into choral arrangement, and that was us, Mr. Reynolds and myself. And it was an interesting thing, because afterwards he told me even what we did at they did a Tyrus Wiley song. I don't remember, She's Royal, and did it chorally. That he himself came and had them do it over in studio with him, and also I think a video with it. I think he said. No, that was how much of an impact we had. I was not teaching there full time. I just go and help, because listen, it's my alma mater. So you'll find that all of us, Berger, Carla Berger, myself, there's another person who is there now, very key in the development of the Past Student Association, David Reed. We all understand how much Vauxhall has influenced our lives, and we all try to make sure that we give back into the people and the students who are at Vauxhall.
So what year did Vauxhall win the choir competition again? And if you could just give us a quick overview of that season, that year, of all the intricacies that went involved.
Boy, listen, to be honest, if I tell you that I remember the year, I would be lying. Because for me, I do things and then forget them. You know, let's talk about like the apostolics. I'm sorry, not that I forget them, but yeah, the dates. Oh no, because you know I remember even. Let's talk about even that. But so I can't. Let me deal with this part. I can't tell you exactly how what year they win. I remember though that we thought about doing all kind of arrangement that was different and unique, and that's why Vauxhall led in terms of the arrangement style of it, because they were the first to have done that. And then it became a norm for the other schools to do it. And I will definitely say now it has become a norm in that competition, even though I'm not there to be in terms of the choral reggae, dancehall, gospel in a choral arrangement. We did that. The same thing with when I was when I became even before I became the music director of Pentab, we had the apostolics. You know, that was a drama in and of itself, because I remember, first of all, a lot of people don't know, I never started playing on the band, even though I could play in church. Because I was working with Mr. Weatherburn, I didn't see myself going in there until I decided, listen, I can't go that route, because they were pushing me into the pop music route. But I understand that as a Christian, there are certain things they can't do. So I told him, no, I can't. And then I started playing. How I started playing in the band, though, is that at the youth services, there were no music person there. And at street meetings, there were no person to play the keyboard. So I started playing for them in those services.
And by that time, you could have played the keyboard by that time.
I could have played, not the way I'm playing now, definitely. Yes. But I was able to understand the basic elements of playing an accompaniment, because again, that was a part of teaching. Yes. But then I couldn't play in church. You know, I remember one time trying to play the piano in church, and they I remember saying that it was said that the piano and the organ could not play together. Those are way back. So when we had the
because you weren't good enough at the time to play for a Sunday morning service.
And to be honest, I don't even think that was the case. I just think that because again, it was just a normal tradition. Yeah. You know, and you know, it's one thing to have, when you have tradition, to come out of that vein. However, you know, we decided, okay, here are a bunch of people who had so much talent as singers, and we came together and we formed the apostolic. So we'd record, we'd go around to sing at places. You know, I remember even one time we went to Saxop Methodist to sing, and the Holy Spirit came down and the people were so amazed. You know, those things were very impactful for the lives of people. You know, what one other thing that I thought was impactful is us even doing the morning devotions in schools. That was fun, because we saw.
Tell us who were the original members of the apostolics.
The original members was, let's start with the males first, because it's easier. It's Paul Alberts, myself, Dave and Mark Stewart. Those were the 4 males. Soprano, we had Sherrod, Denise, Zerny, Emily as sopranos. Altos, we had Janice. Who else? I'm not sure who else was this alto, but we had Janice and somebody else. But I'm not. I know. Oh, Diane was also came in a little later. But those persons were the very first. So that CD cassette that we had was with those persons at Boris Gardner. We record that with Boris Gardner. So we moved from that, and then after immediately, what I decided when I became the music director was to get everybody involved, not just the apostolic. So we had we did recordings with the choir, the music ministry, the youth, the children choir, because we were always, as I say, I'm always passionate about having the young persons singing, because we were watching that video during the COVID time, my wife and I, and we saw even you on that choir.
My God, don't even bring
that children choir. No, no. I told her not to put that up. Said her, no, don't put that up. Don't put that up. And but it's a good thing. And one thing I've been saying to folks, don't say that the kids are the future. The kids are now. It's our responsibility to get them involved in church activities from now. The more they get involved in church activities, the more they will continue to be in church activities. So we did that, and then when we left that, I started to invite different people to come, because one of the things I've always recognized that no man can do anything alone.
Yes.
And sometimes, even though you might say something to your choir, if you have somebody outside that says it, it comes across more effective.
Different way, yes.
Yeah, and you always need to get new faces in to help. And so Sister Hedda and myself, she reminded me, well, she was the one who introduced Darren Thomas to us. And we started to invite Darren Thomas, and we invite some other persons in to help. And that helped the choir a lot. One of the things why for me, I thought it was so vital is that Darren, out of all the other persons, did not just come to teach us how to sing, but he also came to teach us and give us a better understanding of the ministry in which we were called. And I did that. That was what changed my life, because I started to study the word more as it relates to what singing is about and how it can be impactful to the lives of the people. And then
he was a music director for what church again?
For Bishop Wagner's church. Yeah. He was the praise, and so therefore, and he's a pastor now. But if you know Bishop Wagner's church in the U.S., they were always in the Word. So that helped me. But what also helped me, I remember when Dr. Elton Morell came with him for the concert that we had at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that one. But what blew my mind was, here's this little young lad at 21 years of age. He had a doctorate in music. And some of the stuff that he was telling us, most of us were lost.
Yes.
Well, all of us were lost, to be honest. All of us. Because one of the challenge was, we all were musical, but we weren't musical in terms of understanding the theoretical aspect of music, yes, and the whole principle of music.
Yeah. You knew how to play in church and the songs and everything, but that's just one aspect.
Yes, that's just one aspect of it, and that was a drawback. So when he came and he played he played, and then Ron came and he played, I decided, no, I cannot be a music director and be so deficient.
Yes,
and that forces me to start it. Yeah, and nothing is wrong. Again, one of the things people I've come to learn is that nothing is wrong with being deficient. Mm-hmm. What becomes the tragedy is if you being deficient and denying your deficiency, then there's no room for help.
You have to make a move.
And because you can't move. If you are going to deny that, listen, I don't really know it, and you know you don't know it, you're worse off than you when you went before, because you're denying the very fact. So I decided to do that. And what that has done, it started me to yearn for knowledge and yearn to understand the concept and the principle. Because again, I didn't want to go anywhere and be be put in such a situation. So that's what happened. And I decided to go. I went to the summer camps at Berkeley and started to learn with PJ Morgan, Dennis Montgomery III, and the list goes on. And that then started to improve the quality. One of the things I've always said, and I hold dear, the quality of your music cannot go beyond the quality of your musicians, because they will push the singers to sing certain things. If the musicians aren't that good, then what you're going to have is the same level. Or if you have a good singer, they're going to have to come down to where you are so that the sound can be good. So it's incumbent on musicians to learn, you know. So that is what happened, and I started to study and to try to improve myself. One of the good things is, I will tell you this, leaving Jamaica, it also being in another country outside of just church, because normally most of the countries that I would go, like in the US and to play, is always church. So church don't require you being qualified, you know, and for example, in Jamaica, most of the persons who teach music, I dare say, are not qualified in terms of degree wise, because I wasn't. Because we can play and we know our stuff in terms of playing and to create for band purposes, but deep into the technology, the theoretical side of the music. For example, I was never a classical person, but being this country, I have to teach classical music because I work with an orchestra. I work with school bands. Well, school bands, you know, still same thing. You have to read the music, and in Jamaica, I never normally push the students to just read. I have them to have just an appreciation of the music. No, I have to do both. I want you to have appreciation of the music, because you also need to know to read. So if somebody asks you what note is this, you can't say you don't know. You must know, even if it's going to take you a little while to get it, but at least you have the basic understanding to help you through it. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
So what that has done, being here now, it requires you to not just have, for example, most music teachers here, they're all having masters and going into doctorate. You know, one of my friends who has a doctorate in music, well, it's not a much for you. What they tell you in school is not necessary for you to have a doctorate unless you're going to teach at a university. Yes. You know, those things. But one of the things it brought to me when I left.
Came and no, right? That's correct.
I am. Yes, sir. One of the things it brought home to me when I came, because remember now, I left UTech, went straight into Penta. I didn't even went to the graduation because remember I was sick at the time. So when I came here, I had to get my thing. So I lived for a little while not knowing that I had a degree in accounting. Yes. That I completed, because I thought I had cost. There's one part of that is very hard, auditing, and I realized I passed it with an A. Mm-hmm. You know, but God is good. So being here, I started finishing up Berkeley, you know, doing orchestration. God is good that every term I was on the dean's list, and the lecturers and everybody want to use my work to use it to show students. And God is good that I got the opportunity to be featured on Berkeley website, which came at Boston, Massachusetts. And you imagine a college with 10,000 or probably 100,000 students, and you were one of the persons who they chose to feature on their website. You know, but those are some of the things that I am not good at. Yeah, I remember my last class. I have to do a website because I have a website out now, and I was telling them that I'm not the person who goes to talk about themselves, because we were never brought up like that. Yes. You know, in our setting, they say if you talk too much about yourself, you are proud. Yes. Dare I say, and you know, one of the things I have to what would I say take that out of my mindset. Yeah. Reprogram, because here's the thing, you are a brand. Yes. And you have to promote the brand.
Believe it or not, you have to sell yourself.
and I had to do so much with that. I had to do a website. I had to promote myself. You know, one thing's at Berkeley, you're not only, apart from just studying at Berkeley, you get contacts because the alumni is quite big. And also, I just finished an orchestration course for movie orchestration. And, you know, when I was finished, the contacts that you get is amazing, you know. But that's some of the things that you and you have to sell yourself. You have to show your work, and you have to be proud of the work that you do, you know. In the jazz classes, you know, and for example, it's a misdemeanor. Well, I shouldn't say a misdemeanor, a misnomer rather.
Yes.
That, you know, most classical players are just classical players. What I've come to learn is that most of the persons who do movie orchestration, and movie orchestration is not just classical music, but there's a lot of classical orientations in it, are jazz players, you know.
Okay.
So and you can check it out, most of them. And I was shocked because my lecturer is a big jazz player. And I'm saying, what? And he says, oh, yes, that's what, because again, having an understanding of all, for me, I think, as a musician, you must have an understanding of all of the forms so that you are able to adapt, and it widens your musical expression, it widens your concepts. And that's what I had to do, you know. So that has helped me now to look at music in a different light. You know, normally I would look at classical music as something that is, you know, oh, but classical is different from black gospel because that's how we grew up. You know, all these big fat chords, it has to be there, you know, but not understanding that everything comes from even classical music. And you're able to sit down. One of the things they do is classical musical analysis, where you listen to the music and work out all of the section, the movements. But while working out the section of music movement, you can also work out the chord progressions of each section of movement, you know, and that's some of the things that they teach you. So, you know, you understand that music really rotates about and all the forms intertwine.
Question, you know, though. What I would like to ask, you're now living in Cayman.
Yes, sir.
And the church that you grew up in from your child, Pentab, you know, that's like a big church, and you became the music director there, and you basically settled in life. I think you even bought a house and stuff. What motivated you to leave in Jamaica?
Well, you know,
what motivated you to leave all of that comfort? You basically settled in Jamaica. You have your home. You're the music director at one of the biggest churches in Jamaica and stuff. And what would make you leave all of that and to start basically afresh in a foreign country?
All right. I'll put it this way. I won't go through the nuances because for me those things are past. But I remember one day I also started a music school in Jamaica, and it was growing. But I remember praying and literally hearing a voice says that you should go. And I said it to one of my friends, Mr. Joseph Bury, and he was so instrumental in having me here. He said, Cranston, if the Lord tell you to come, come. And he said, let's just start a business together. And that's what we did. When I came, starting the business in less than say 4 months, I was hired by a school to be the music teacher, and that's a school I teach at till this day. And then I was hired by another school. I worked with an after school program. I'm teaching them the woodwind section. And then I teach from my school. We have what God has blessed me tremendously by teaching in Jamaica, because I taught in the infant school, the primary school, the secondary school. I'm at a school now that I'm only one music teacher and have to teach all 3 levels. Yes. You know, which you normally
being prepared for that basically from before.
For that,
you didn't even know.
They didn't even know. You know, and to be honest, most schools don't have that. Because most teachers are specialists in one area. They're either a primary school teacher, primary educator, or a secondary educator. You know, God is good. I have a private school here, and one of my students at age 30, I think the age 13, yes, it was, he passed the CXC music exam. Yes. And it was the first for his age. No, he's just leaving, was in grade 8, and he did to grade 3. And I said, okay, he wanted to do something different. And I said, let's do the 6C. And in 6 months, we studied for a 6C exam that we didn't know, because I never, in Jamaica, I never taught 6C exam. I taught accounts for the exam, but I had an idea of SBA and stuff. And in 6 months, he passed that exam. So God has worked it that way. What I always think and believe is that God has a plan for it. So he said, get up and go. I got up and go. God opened the way. And that's how I look at it. He opened the way. He opened the way for many things. He opened the way so that I could be here to teach, and also provided me the way where I could be more than qualified, and studying at Berkeley. And doing, I remember sending a thesis to York University for a master's, a research piece, because, the inspiration, and this inspiration that I had, that I sent to York University for the master's piece, is something that I got while I was at Penta. And when they got the piece, they were amazed at the thesis. They were amazed at what I was laying out before them, because they couldn't. This was something that was never presented to them in this life. I won't discuss that part, because
you're now completed with Berkeley, or you're
at Berkeley, right? I'm finished. I'm doing my last course here now. In this, while I'm talking to you, this summer is my last course, and I'm finished totally.
Almost at the end of the road.
Yeah, at the end. And the funniest thing, I have a 3.97. Out of a 4.0, so that means I always have A's, and that's a good, because the maximum is 4.0.
You find other Caribbean students there, or it's mostly Americans?
But surprisingly, no, all over the world. But here's the thing: there is a gentleman, I forget his name now, Nepal. He just finished his master in movie orchestration, sincere, and he's from Saint-Villemar. So it is what
again on the map.
And what I'm happy for is that apostolics are doing that, because that's what we need to do. And when we can bring our music to that forefront and try to empower, and we have a responsibility as Christians to empower other Christians, so the knowledge, and this is one thing I tell, I speak to while studying and talking to my lecturers. It's not about being good, and I'm glad that you all think that I can do this and I can play, because there were lessons that I had to be helping my lecturers to teach the students and stuff. But I want to make sure that what I have, I can pass it on to somebody, because knowledge that you have by yourself that is not passed on is no knowledge at all, and that's what my job here in the Cayman Islands to do, is to pass these knowledge on. So I'm glad when I see kids for example, I have a couple of them really in primary school, and if you see the quality of playing, well, I did because we couldn't have the concert here, we do it online, and if you watch some of those kids playing, it's crazy. Off of what they can do, I could never do it at their age. So they're out for greatness. And right now, for the summer, what I've been doing is just teaching them all Berkeley knowledge, because my thing is learn it. Go, sky's the limit for you. Because that's you have the opportunity to do so.
Okay, as we're coming to a close now, looking back over your life, is there anything you probably would change or do different? Looking back now.
One of the things I don't do, Lestine, unfortunately, I don't look back and try to see what could be different, what is different, what I would change. Because I believe that everything that happens in your life
happens for a reason.
Is for a reason. You're and it's not about changing what is in the past. It's how can you make what is now be relevant, one, for the kingdom, for your families, for your friends, for other people, because it's never about you, and that's how I look at it, and that's how I view my life. I'm here in the Cayman Islands. How can I impact with what I have? How can I help somebody to be better? How can I help to grow somebody else? Because by growing somebody else, you also grow, and that's how I look at it.
What are the projects you're working on now, or what you have upcoming in the near medium future?
Okay, projects. right now, my project was to finish because it's a lot of work. But I've started a project, and this is something I'm also going to think about doing for the Caribbean. I won't say much of it, but I'm using all my knowledge um, to incorporate and to see how we can, how would I do, there's a book that I'm writing, but it's sheet music,
Yes.
taking or indigenous music, let me put it that way, because I'm trying not to say what it is really, and make it into something that the world can have for years to come.
Yes.
Because one of the things about the Caribbean, we do not write.
Yes.
How many of our scores do we see? If you go online and you want to find the sheet music for one of the Jamaica's popular music,
Hardly
how
can
easy is
find
that
it.
to find?
Hardly.
And if somebody's doing it, is somebody who's not in the Caribbean. How many times how many sheet music can you find for one of the music for Trinidad, for Cayman Islands here that we
Yes.
have? There's a couple, but not a whole lot. I'm saying, with the knowledge that I've got, I want to be a preserver of that sheet wise, because yes, the music is there, but not many people can, uh, after you have played it, everybody plays the one song differently.
Differently. Yes.
You understand me? Because they are not able to see. No, classical music is totally different.
Mhm.
Classical music, you play what is before you. Even if you want to tweak it a little bit, you can, but at least you have the sheet there.
Yeah.
We need to preserve our music. We need to preserve it by having it written. And not many people can do that. And the persons who can, I think, has a responsibility to do so, and that's what I do. And even if you do it, you say, well, I won't say it, because if I say it, I give it away. So I'm working on that.
Don't say it. Don't say it. As we
But
wrap
in
up,
turn,
just to give our viewers a final word of encouragement. You might have some persons who are born in similar circumstances such as yours, coming from humble beginnings, but you push past the odds, and even losing your mother at grade 3, you still
and
push
my
past.
father at 17,
And your father
yeah,
activity. We didn't even go into that, but
go there, no
just give
problem,
a
no
word
problem.
of encouragement to someone out there who probably is an aspirant musician and wants to reach to the highest level of the path that they can take.
Well, for every musician, one thing that I would recommend: never be satisfied with where you are at, because anytime you're satisfied at where you are, then you will never try to attain more. And never to put yourself in the box to say, okay, for example, what is a popular thing now? I only can play in C, or I only can play in D flat. I'm a D flat musician, so I transpose the keyboard. Push yourself beyond the limit. And if you, after you have played in every key, if you can't sight read the music, push yourself to do that. And even when you can, try to learn something else. So I always be eager to want to learn more, because music is not limited to one form, one genre. It is, the more you learn, the more you will improve in all the other forms that you are. And regardless of the beginning you come, when I was growing up, I never had a keyboard. I used to just draw the notes on the cardboard and work it, then put it in my mind, because I recognize that what is in your head, that's what you put out on the instrument. But never give up. Always try to do that. And one thing too is always stay humble. Even if you know that somebody is not doing the right thing, it's not your job to try to tell them in front of other people that, yo, you're wrong. I have been guilty of that when I was in the band at Pentaba. I always look around to the musicians to say that he's wrong, and the musicians had to tell me, yo, that didn't look good, and I had to adjust myself. So I've learned, but never you do that. I remember Dennis Montgomery was playing the organ, and one of the students come to say, "Oh, that's not the way the song is played." You don't go to a lecturer and tell the lecturer that.
Yeah.
You ease back, leave that alone. You know what you know, and if they want to do it that way, it's not polite to do that publicly. If you want to say it afterwards, you tell them. But even if they don't see it your way, it doesn't mean that your way is wrong, and don't try to tell them that their way is wrong. Try to be humble enough to say, okay, I know what I know. Let them, some people have to find things out themselves. So you leave it alone, and try to be the conduit for peace.
Yes.
At all times. And that's how I think it should be.
We're wrapping up, and I realized that we didn't say anything much about Denise, your wife, who is one of your
My
biggest
wife,
supporters.
I've always said my wife. No, please don't, please don't. She's always there. Really, I will tell you this. Denise is the backbone behind everything. She does, even for the business, she's the one who does the planning. She does the organizing. I am nothing. I always tell people, even the clothes that I wear, I don't buy because she's the one who does that. And really and truly, she has been the tower of strength, and for me, I know that I could not I remember in my finals, I had to give an appreciation, and I said to them, thanks to my wife for really standing behind me, because even when I'm studying, I'm taking away all that time studying, she's still supportive of me studying, and that is what I'm glad for, to have somebody who can support you and to make sure want the best for you as an individual, and that goes for him, and that's what Denise has been, a tower of strength.
Thank the Lord for Denise.
Amen, amen. She probably not hearing, so because she's on the other part of the room.
She watch it and see.
Yes, I hope she. Yes, sir.
So thank you so much.
That was a teasing her, because she's gonna critique everything, Leslie.
Yes,
my wife is very critical, right? Yes.
Thank you so much, Cranston, for spending the time and sharing some of your experiences with us. It was very good, and I know that persons will benefit from it in some way, shape, or form. So as we close, just to remind those persons who have not yet subscribed to our channel to hit the notification bell below when you hit subscribe, so that you will be notified of other videos that we produce. And if you want to become a part of our WhatsApp family, the number is posted below. You can just message us and you become a part of our WhatsApp family. So until next time, have a blessed day and stay safe.
And thank you for having me, Leslie. God bless you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Blessings.